Hello and welcome to the new moon in Aquarius intention setting practice. I'm Phaedra. For those of you who might be new to the broadcast, welcome. I'm the astrologer and artist of Mystick, Physick Astrology, and I use Western Sidereal Astrology here in my practice to help you kind of remember why you came into this world and reconnect with your soul purpose and more consciously live your life. And hi, Jonna. Maybe it was a good thing we had an interruption since you get to join us. Anyway, I was busy introducing myself and explaining that my aim with the broadcast is really to provide guidance on how we can use energy of the transiting planets with intention to affect our lives in a positive way. And so that's what we're doing this evening with the new moon in Sidereal Aquarius intention setting practice. And so thank you. I'm so glad you're all with me. Hi, Maggie. It's good to have you on. So let me make sure I have the broadcast pulled up in my browser before I get too far into things. I was trying to refresh my feed a moment ago to pull up the video, and I think that's what kicked me off of the internet connection. There it is. Here we go. Okay, so I've got this muted. Amanda's with us, and Nicole. Thanks everyone for joining me. It's really kind of exciting to have everyone here. I'm kind of feeling back to myself after going to the convention in January. Like, took long enough. I realized, hello, it's because I flew for the first time in like 10 years, and then I got home and I didn't do any grounding. So I was just like, I don't know, Captain Space Cadet for 3 weeks. But thanks for joining me live, guys. So what we're doing tonight, we're going to be exploring the power of visualization because that's a very Aquarian theme. Specifically, what I want to invite you to do is visualize a radically new and different future for yourself. We're going to talk a little bit about tapping into your zone of genius, right? And identifying, well, what is that genius, right? And we're going to kind of explore maybe getting comfortable with disrupting the status quo, okay, right? Because Aquarius is the sign ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is all about change and disruption, right? Especially sudden change and sudden disruption. But the reason we're going to focus on these things tonight is because we want to explore ways that we can manifest outcomes that are in alignment with the life we want to live, right? So I hope you all brought a pen and paper, your sidereal natal chart, your favorite beverage, and your intentions for using this opportunity. We're going to initiate some radical change. And so I'm very excited about this evening's practice. I'm going to give you the sidereal natal chart tool here in the comments, in case anyone needs to look up their sidereal natal chart real quick. Maybe, if I can see the comments. You have to have your browser just big enough. Oh, you also have to have your keyboard turned on. Oh, wow. Hey, that's not exactly what I was going to post, but that works because that gets you the link. So that's all the text from the live stream post. That works. I didn't have my keyboard turned on when I was copying the link, so you get the whole thing. There we go. Okay, so if you need to look up your chart, do it there. We're using the Fagan Bradley Sidereal Zodiac, not the Lahiri, not the Krishnamurti, excuse me, I can't talk today, or any of the other many and varied sidereal zodiacs that there are. If you use a Fagan Allen, that's pretty close. Especially for the planets. It can differ, I believe, with the nodes of the moon if you're using Fagan Allen from Fagan Bradley, even though they are very, very similar. Anyway, so tomorrow night we have the new moon in Aquarius, right? We have the sun and moon conjunct Neptune at the same time. So this is going to be kind of an interesting new moon. And what I'd like to do is start off the broadcast talking about this particular new moon specifically. Then we're going to jump into a rundown of what house this particular new moon is falling in for everyone by rising sign. And then we'll get into more specifically the archetype of Aquarius, themes of Aquarius, and some prompts that we can use for welcoming change into our lives and for thinking of ways that we can help invite positive change in, okay? Especially change that might help us move towards our dreams. right? Neptune is very much the planet of dreams. And so let's be thinking about our dreams tonight. But the Aquarius new moon is March 6th, right? So we're just ahead of that. And I commented in the March overview and short reports, if you haven't read them yet, please do, that this particular new moon could leave us kind of emotionally energized towards that idea of fulfilling our dreams. In part because we do have Neptune in play, in part because it's in Aquarius, which is the natural ruler of the 11th house, which is the house of hopes and dreams. It's a visionary house, right? Aquarius is a visionary sign. And so this particular situation can be beneficial, and we'll get into how. So right now we also have Mercury stationing retrograde, right? Is anyone excited about that, right? And so we kind of have to be really thoughtful about how we use this new moon. Typically, we would advise you at Mercury retrograde, don't make any major initiations. Unless you absolutely can't avoid it. It's really not the right time to be making major initiations. Now, I will toss in a caveat, and that's what we're going to explore tonight, unless you are restarting something that you already previously gave a go at and maybe weren't quite successful, or maybe it didn't land where you wanted it to. Maybe you're ready to try again. Maybe you're thinking about reviewing some of the things you could have done better, or what ways you failed, or where, what was the failure to launch issue around whatever hope or dream it was you were pursuing. So if you have already done that, you could use this opportunity to make a fresh start, a second chance, try again, right? And so in this respect, one thing I want you to do is pay attention in the days right around this new moon especially, for insights, especially insights which might help trigger transformation or profound change. Now, these can be painful insights. It can be painful change. I want you to keep that in mind, right? So be prepared for the potential for discomfort, but also be aware that death and rebirth cycles are part of the natural world, and that they can ultimately help move us closer to our aspirations and to help further our spiritual evolution. And that's really what this particular new moon is about. Okay, so as far as Neptune goes, in terms of mood or ambiance, that's going to cast kind of a mystical feel over this particular new moon, to what would normally be like an airy and intellectual new moon, right? Because Aquarius is a very airy and intellectual sign. But it's going to give us kind of a cloak of illusion, maybe affect our ability to find clarity of thought and clarity of intent. So do keep that in mind while you're working on your intention setting practice tonight. And maybe if you're struggling with clarity, keep your intentions tonight a little bit looser, a little bit less detailed, and and maybe allow yourself to be open and inviting to strokes of insight or inspiration or sudden insights that might come after the intention setting. Okay, so speaking for a moment, not about the new moon, but about Mercury stationing retrograde. So he's stationing today. The days around a planetary station are always very, very powerful for that planet. So you kind of want to give them some space. I would say the day before, the day of, the day after, especially those 3 days. So this is kind of a weird, edgy, weird sort of day. I don't know if y'all have noticed. There's been kind of like odd things going on today for a lot of people. He's going to be retrograde for most of the month through the 28th, okay? So avoid beginning things are important, like I was talking about, but also avoid making expensive purchases or buying electronics, automobiles, signing contracts, those sorts of things, if at all possible. There are helpful ways to leverage the retrograde influence. You can explore what those are. The Mercury Retrograde Survival Guide, the blog posts I have on the website at Uranus in the 5th house. So please check that out, because that will help guide you through. If you haven't checked it out already, if you haven't got your refresher, that's going to help guide you through the next 3 to 5-ish weeks through mid-April, essentially, once Mercury comes out of his shadow. But it'll make it a little bit easier to kind of navigate that time frame. It's a little bit tricky, but if you know some of the tricks and tips for getting through Mercury retrograde, it can be a lot smoother sailing. So what I'll do, actually, let me give you the link for that in the comments too, because I have the link right here and I didn't include it in the description. So hopefully I had the keyboard turned on. Oh, yep, looks like. There you go. So that's for the Mercury Retrograde Survival Guide, and I think that's actually for the blog post and not the actual. There's a downloadable guide that you can purchase. And then there's a condensed version that's the blog post. So if you want the full one, buy the full guide, but if you just want to kind of like get a quick refresher, read the blog post. But that should be it. Okay? So grab your pen and paper. This is where we're going to want to know what your sidereal rising sign is and your sidereal sun sign if you want to do this practice for your sun sign as well. If you have Aries rising, this is an 11th house new moon for you. So that's friends, organizations, and hopes and dreams, which are really right in line with what tonight's themes are. If you have a Taurus rising, it's a 10th house new moon for you. So career, awards, recognition, achievement, status and reputation, those are all 10th house themes. If you have Gemini rising, this is a 9th house. So higher education, long distance travel, long distance communication, things like publishing and broadcasting, or anything that has a large audience or reaches a large audience or over long distances. Also religion, philosophy, law, those are 9th house themes. If you have Cancer rising, this is an 8th house new moon. So this would be other people's money, other people's resources that are at your disposal, your partner's money or resources if you have a partner. Also your investment earnings, taxes, inheritance, bonus or commission income, the occult, death, rebirth, and transformation. Okay, which were also some of the themes that we were talking about being applicable for this particular new moon. If you have Leo rising, this is going to be 7th house. So this is partnership, marriage, business. This is relationships with other people in general. It's also relationships with open enemies. Okay. And what we reject about ourselves or tend to project onto other people. And that can be when you're specifically looking at the descendant. Okay. And then for those of you who have Virgo rising, this is a 6th house full moon, or excuse me, new moon for you. So work, health, pets, daily routines, those sorts of things. Also your habits, your schedule. So if you're wanting to start a new healthful, good habit, this could be a good opportunity to do that. Excuse me, bumping the cord for the camera. If you have Libra rising, this is a 5th house new moon for you. So creativity and children fall under the 5th house. Romance and true love fall under the 5th house. Not committed relationships, not long-term partnerships, but love relationships, right? Also pleasurable activities, hobbies, sports, things we do for fun. And then finally, risk-taking and gambling. For Scorpio, this is a 4th house new moon for you. So home, family, real estate, later life, your parents, either one or both can be signified by the 4th house. And for Sagittarius, this is going to be a 3rd house new moon for you. So transportation, writing, communication, travel. This is all things that happen near to you. Short distance travel and communication, right? Not long distance. That's 9th house. And then the 3rd house can also relate to your siblings, your neighbors, your extended family like aunts and uncles and cousins, or your immediate environment, wherever it is that you find yourself. And then finally, or excuse me, not finally, but we're getting there. Capricorn, 2nd house new moon for you. So wealth and possessions, movable assets, earned income, expenses, also self-worth, issues around self-worth, or your values, your personal values and priorities. Okay. And then for Aquarius, this is, of course, a 1st house new moon. It's your birthday new moon, Aquarius. Happy birthday. This is personality and identity. It's about self-expression, the physical body. It's about your appearance or the role that you play in the world, your behaviors, your mannerisms. New moons in the 1st house, especially the closer they are to the ascendant, are really fantastic opportunities for beginning a new behavior. So if there's a new pattern of behavior that you're wanting to establish for yourself, you can do that very successfully at a new moon in the 1st house. And I especially like it when it's an eclipse new moon, or an eclipse new moon. Yes, a solar eclipse in the 1st house, because then it can be like a permanent, long-lasting change if you time it right. For Pisces, finally, 12th house, new moon. So privacy and seclusion fall under the 12th house. Spirituality, the unconscious mind, these are 12th house themes. Also, solo projects, things that you work on either by yourself or behind closed doors, like private projects or 12th house projects. And then spiritual practices or spiritual journeys are also 12th house concerns. And then work that you do with institutions of seclusion also falls under the 12th house. And so if anyone's joining us late, or if you missed it, if you want me to recap what house and the themes of that house are for you by your sidereal rising sign, just let me know what your rising sign is in the comments, and I will back up and recap for you what that is. In the meantime, what we'll do is we'll take a moment to explore Aquarius as an archetype and what themes Aquarius is associated with, to kind of give you some ideas around how you can what direction you can take this particular new moon in. So Aquarius is the celestial water bearer. The sigil, the glyph, is depicted as two wavy lines, or often if you see it depicted as a person, this would be quite frequently male, but not always, pouring water from a vessel. Right? This is the image of Aquarius. And this can cause a great deal of confusion. I was actually noticing it just in the last couple of days. I've seen some pretty recent write-ups on Aquarius that talk about a watery association. And there's no watery association with Aquarius. It's an air sign. Water is associated as part of the imagery. But remember that as in everything, but especially in astrology, that imagery is symbolic, right? So in this case, the water is symbolic of the knowledge of mankind, the knowledge that Aquarius brings to mankind, that pours out and shares with mankind. So the water symbolizes knowledge. Knowledge and learning are mental pursuits and activities, and mental is an air sign domain, right? So Aquarius, always keep that in mind. It's the water bearer, is an air sign, okay? It's just symbolic of the knowledge that Aquarius brings to mankind. And so the archetype of Aquarius is that of future man, right? We associate Aquarius with futuristic things, with science fiction, with cutting edge technology, with invention. So all of the world's knowledge, really, right? It's about embodying all of the world's knowledge and using it for the betterment of all mankind, to take us forward as a civilization, to take us forward as a race of beings, right? As a species. And so it's really about Aquarius the genius, Aquarius the visionary, bringing us into new territory, right? But Aquarius is also the sign of universal love. Right? So don't stray too far in that scientific and that materialist kind of direction. Aquarius is the sign of universal love or brotherly love, right? Embodies humanitarian principles and the things that we do for each other, the things that we do for the collective, right? Rules knowledge, science, technology, electricity, genius, we talked about that. It rules invention, we talked about that. It rules innovation, it rules the future. And like Uranus, the planetary or diurnal rotation is perpendicular to the other planets, right? In that way, we associate Aquarius as being a rebellious sign, a counterculture sign that runs at odds to or disrupts, right? Like we talked about, the status quo, okay? So it's rebellious against the status quo. Individualistic, eccentric, right? That's one word. And so a new moon in Aquarius, it presents an opportunity to allow or invite the new into our lives. The kind of new that we haven't even conceived of yet, that we conceive of in a stroke of genius, right? So ultimately, this is about learning, right? It's about expanding our boundaries through learning and growing as a result of that. And so with those things in mind, and keeping in mind how you're using this particular new moon, if you're using it with your rising sign, or if you're using it with your sun sign, I want you to consider these prompts. So take a moment to think about what project or initiation or journey or goal that you've attempted once before but weren't successful at or haven't found success at yet, that you really in your heart of hearts want to pursue, you want to achieve this thing. How can you re-envision this in a way that might make it more viable going forward if you're making a second attempt at it or another attempt? Maybe this isn't even your second attempt. Maybe it'll be your third or a fourth or a fifth, right? What radically new way of doing it could you try? And what outcome would you want if you did? What radically new outcome would you want to manifest if you could? And where specifically, or what, if it's a what, where is your zone of genius? What is your point of genius that you could tap into in the pursuit of or in support of this thing that you want to do? What could you do tapping into your personal genius in service to your fellow human beings or to the broader world as an alternate consideration? And thinking of the status quo around this previous project or initiation or effort that you want to reinitiate. I totally lost my train of thought on that. What way would you disrupt, I want to say, your process, but maybe that's not the right word. Maybe there's a different word for each of you depending on what it is that you would be working towards, right? Whatever it is, it had a status quo to it, right? When you made your previous efforts, how would you go about disrupting that status quo? I guess that's really kind of what I'm driving at. Like, even though I might not be making sense, and if that doesn't make sense, tell me. If it does make sense, let me know in the comments, because that'll help me. But we'll kind of recap these, and I kind of went a little off the cuff, so hopefully our recap will make sense. But what I'm going to have you do is write down on a piece of paper what you intend for this particular part of your life, this particular project or effort, whatever it is that you're going to make a new attempt at, a second attempt at, with this particular new moon. I want you to write down what it is you intend, what it is you want to achieve, and I want you to get into what that outcome is like, ideally, keeping in mind, if you're having trouble finding clarity, it's okay to kind of keep that loose. Remember, like I said, like be open to strokes of insight here, like in the next couple of days or what have you. So as you do that, you're going to write it down. I would like you, and I would encourage you tonight, because this is an Aquarius, to spend a few minutes visualizing that as well, or even drawing or sketching it out in your book or on your paper, okay? And then I also strongly encourage you to write an affirmation around what it is that you want to manifest or achieve. And if you would share in the comments when you're done, share with us maybe a little bit about what it is what intention you're setting tonight and what your affirmation is. And then also too, I want you to keep in mind one final thing I want to throw at you before we recap. This can be, with a new moon in Aquarius, a really powerful opportunity to do a vision board. If you haven't done one, a lot of people do these at the beginning of the year in January, and if you have, that's fine. If you haven't done one and you find the idea of intriguing, new moon in Aquarius can be a fantastic time. If you've already done your major vision board for the year and you hadn't considered making a second attempt at something that you had tried to do in the future that maybe didn't work out, maybe think about making a mini vision board, just maybe like one page or one sheet of a journal, something smaller, where you can put together imagery that speaks to this new moon, right? Maybe not your grand vision for the whole year, but just this new moon, okay? So some things to think about. What I'm going to do real quick is recap the prompts as best I can, considering I kind of went off script a little bit. And then we'll get into actually writing out our intentions and our affirmations. But take a moment, like I said, to think about what new project, what project initiation, journey, or goal that you've already attempted at least once in the past and didn't see all the way through, didn't see it to successful completion, that you would like to give another go at. And envision for me and describe in your intention setting what radically new future you would manifest for yourself around this effort, if you could. And what your particular zone of genius or your innate genius is that you could tap into to help drive it forward that might make it more successful this go round. Okay. And how would you, whatever you consider to be the status quo around that effort that was ultimately unsuccessful, think about how would you approach disrupting that if you could, and to what outcome. And then finally, kind of an alternative thing I want to toss out for you is how could you tap into your particular genius in service to your fellow human beings or in service to broader humanity. Okay, it's just some things to think about tonight. And then we're gonna break here and everyone do your writing, and then we'll come back in just a couple of minutes. Okay. Oh, before we get too far on, I need to read to you tonight's thing in the moon gazing journal. So some of these are about full moons, just so you know, because it is a moon gazing journal, but I only ever write in it at the new moon. Go figure. Mostly because of the full moon, I'm always burning the paper. But let's see what it says for today. It says, the Harvest Moon. Today, the Harvest Moon Festival is a time for family reunion and celebration. The traditional feast includes mooncakes, pomelo fruit, dough biscuits, and Chinese tea. There you have it, the Harvest Moon Festival. All right, this is kind of interesting. Not a direction I thought I would go. How's everyone else doing? If you need a little extra time, feel free to let me know in the comments, because we can always give you a little extra time. So for Gemini rising, this is a 9th house. I didn't write an affirmation. Do I want to take a moment and do that? What do you think? Affirmations. Do we have one in a handy stack of affirmations? That would be a good one to use with a new moon in Aquarius. It's a good question. I don't know. There we go. That could be a good one. We'll see. I might have to write a special affirmation for this one. I just dropped one of my cards on the floor. Hold on. There we go. Got it. Okay. So for Gemini rising, this is 9th house, which is long distance communication, right? It's publishing and broadcasting, which is what I do like a bajillion times a month, it seems like. Really only 4. But it seems like a bajillion times a month. But also the type of publishing that reaches large audiences or crosses long distance. And, you know, when you have a website, when you publish online, you can do that, right? When you use social media in a modern day and age, you can reach a global audience. And so that's really what I do. And I really kind of want to tap into that. And so it kind of strikes me that here I have this really interesting opportunity to reconsider what was my intention when I launched my website, when I launched the blog, Uranus in the 5th house, when I launched the Sidereal monthly horoscopes, all of that stuff. What was my intention? And so what I wrote is that I want to restart and reimagine the Sidereal monthly horoscopes at mystickphysick.com. I want to restart them on a schedule, ideally where advanced access is available every month, a full month in advance. That would be my dream scenario. That was my intention when I first launched the Sidereal monthly horoscopes, was to be able to have advanced access available for folks a month in advance where you could come and read the current month's horoscope for free. And then if you wanted to pay for a subscription, you could read a month ahead every month. And we were on that schedule for a while. It kind of got derailed, and I'd really, really, really like to get back on it. I'm kind of impatient to be back on that schedule, but I want it to be sustainable. And I hope you'll forgive me. My cat is playing with her jingle toy. If that is distracting, please tell me. We'll take it away from her. I'm happy to do that. But I wrote that I intend to tap into new tools and talents to make this happen. And that I intend for this horoscope reboot to flow easily, effortlessly, sustainably, month after month. And that it is my ultimate intention for the Sidereal Monthly Horoscopes to serve myself and my readers' highest good. That's the idea. I want us all to be served towards our highest good by the work that we do here every month. And so that's my intention. I did not write an affirmation around that, but I think I'll spend some time this evening kind of really sitting with that and sitting with, well, what does that look like? What is sustainable? What is easily? What is effortlessly? What does flow look like in the work that I do? So I have some work to do still, even after the broadcast. Maybe you folks do too. Jonna says, I wrote a weirdly personal bunch of stuff, so I'm not going to share this time. Haha. I love affirmations, though. You know what? That's fine, Jonna. That's kind of the nature of what we do. Sometimes it's weirdly personal, and sometimes you don't want to share, and that is perfectly, perfectly fine. And you know what? It's also perfectly appropriate for an Aquarius new moon for that to be when that happens. I had some stuff I didn't share last time, so I totally understand. And if anyone else does want to share, or if you want to share your affirmation or anything like that, please feel free in the comments. Even if you're catching the replay, you're always welcome to share in the comments. And I do watch the comments after the broadcast is over so that I can reply if you have questions, or for those of you who do like to share what your intention is. Let's see, what else do we have for you this evening in terms of like announcements? So if you haven't been to the website yet, the March overview and short reports are published. The full horoscopes by sign are not published. And this is where I'm wanting to really reboot this and get this back on a regular schedule, especially one where we're publishing ahead of schedule. That's really my dream goal. But if you haven't been to the website yet to read the March overview and short reports, do so, because I talk a bit about the retrograde, some things that you want to keep in mind. And I would also encourage you, if you didn't watch the last Sidereal Insights Astro update, you might want to go back and catch that too at the website. And the reason being, I talk specifically about what Venus and Mercury are doing during this Mercury retrograde and how you can kind of tap into that as well. So I gave you some specific guidance in those two places about how to get through the month of March with Mercury retrograde. And so that's why I would really encourage you to go back and check out, like I said, the last Sidereal Insights Astro Update broadcast, and to read the March overview and short reports on the website if you haven't read them yet. I do hope to have the full horoscopes by sign too soon. We'll see how that goes. I'm kind of playing it by ear. I would like to have them ideally for you by the end of the week if I can make that happen, but we'll see, and I'll keep you posted on that. And I'm just about finished transferring over all of the videos from the old YouTube channel to the new YouTube channel, so I will encourage you one more time, and I'll give you the link right here. Hold on, I moved my laptop. So if you had subscribed to our original YouTube channel and you haven't subscribed to the new one, you want to do that, because the old one is going to go away eventually. I have to merge them and it'll disappear. And so if you want to be sure to be notified whenever we post a new video to the YouTube channel, like we do with all of the lunar living, the new and full moon practices that we do, and the Sidereal Insights Astro updates, subscribe to the channel and you'll get notified every time I post a new video. But I think that's really everything that I have for you. Like, that's really it. That's really it. I can't think of anything else that's like super critical other than Mercury's retrograde. Put your crash helmets on. Strap in. Strap in, and we'll survive the next 3 weeks together. And if you have any questions for me, as always, feel free to reach out to me. You can tag me in the group at Sidereal Insights Astrology Community on Facebook, or you can always reach out to me through my website. And thanks everyone for joining me tonight, and we'll talk to you again next time.